I've often said it's never too early and it's never too late to start preparing for the best possible outcome, especially for somebody who is facing charges in federal court. If you're facing charges in federal court, there's a very strong likelihood that a sentencing hearing is going to follow. And during that sentencing hearing, you want to prepare yourself for how you're going to address the judge. That segment of the sentencing hearing is called the allocution segment, where the judge will say to your defense attorney at some point during the hearing, does your client have anything you would like to say to the court? I want you to be thinking about that at the soonest possible time, because you have to understand how influential your words can be at working towards the outcome that you want. And what's the outcome that you want? It's the same outcome that anybody wants who's facing a federal sentencing. They want to have the least restrictive sentence as possible. But nobody can change the past of what has happened before. What we have to do is have to start sowing seeds for the way that we're going to influence the future. And I really believe that your voice is extremely helpful. It's helpful not only in the terms of the narrative that you write, but also in terms of the way you present yourself at that sentencing hearing. So you want to practice a lot before you get to that sentencing hearing. Not necessarily to make it super polished that you come across with the eloquence of Alec Baldwin or some movie star, but rather that you come across completely sincere, completely authentic, and you're unfiltered by the influence of lawyers or anybody else. So it's got to be your voice. Nobody can do this but you. And that's why it's so important to prepare in advance, because judges are going to consider that allocution as a window into your character, into your remorse, into your readiness and capacity for change or reconciliation. So if you can understand that and accept that, then you should start preparing right now. So the purpose of the allocution is really for people who want to accept responsibility for the crime. But if you've pleaded not guilty and a jury convicted you, you could still accept responsibility for something. Okay? You could try to help the judge understand that you get the severity of these proceedings and you're taking responsibility. You understand that and respect the verdict of the jury, and your job is to move forward as a good citizen. And you can accept responsibility that in this particular instance, circumstances happen that put you in the crosshairs, and you've learned from this. I mean, there's got to be some kind of way for you to build a story. And you don't need anybody to help you build the story. You just need to help yourself. You need to be the CEO of your life, because you're about to make the biggest sale of your life. You're about to convince a cynical stakeholder what makes you different from everybody else that faces sentencing. So if it's possible, you want to understand the importance of expressing remorse. And if that's appropriate in your case, don't focus on your own, what's happening to you or your children or your family. Focus and try to keep your focus on the victims of the crime, on the community, on the harm that was caused and what you've learned while going through this process. Your allocution should demonstrate your insight and your personal growth and give the judge a reason to believe in your ability to reform or your candidacy to live the rest of your life as a good citizen. So I'm going to just give you some feedback here on some core elements that you might want to practice. And then I will also provide just an extemporaneous example of what I think a strong allocution statement will sound like. You want to show gratitude and respect to the court, because it's a very formal part of the judicial process and they expect a modicum of decorum. So show that gratitude and respect for the judge. If it's appropriate in your case, accept responsibility for your actions without any excuses or any shifting of blame. That it really requires discipline, because a lot of people want to take a plea agreement, for example, and accept responsibility. But then when it comes time to sentencing, they almost try to relitigate the case and talk about what it's not really their fault and they shouldn't be here. And that will never serve a defendant's interests well if the focus is to get the lowest possible sentence. If it's possible to express remorse without undermining your appeal, then I think that it makes a lot of sense to do that. Express empathy for those that were harmed, and don't ever say that there are no victims in the case. In the government's view, there's always a victim, and that victim is the United States government. So speak about it directly and talk about what you've learned from this experience. You really want to reflect on the lessons that you've learned while going through this and how it's influenced your outcome as a citizen of the United States. Talk about your commitment to change, explaining the concrete steps that you have taken and the plans for your future. And I hope that you've taken those. You could learn a lot about that on our website at prisonprofessors.org, where I'm really encouraging you, start memorializing your journey. In fact, I'm going to share my screen with hopes of you using it as a resource. Okay, so you want to just simply go to the website right here. And from the website, I would encourage you to go through all of these tabs and learn about what does it mean to build a pathway demonstrating, hey, you can't change that you've brought into the system as a criminal defendant, but show how you're working to emerge as a good law-abiding citizen. Look for examples. Go through our free lessons and courses, which are all available right here, and talk about what you've learned. Most importantly, go in there and build your profile, which you can access right by clicking that button on the top right, and start building a profile so that you can show up on the leaderboard, earning points and demonstrating all the different ways that you are working, like this guy did. He's serving 20 years in Miami, but look at how he writes about his life. He's taking the time to describe his path and showing what is he doing to make things better. These are all strategies that you could use in your allocution statement if you spend the time to prepare well. So I would really encourage you, if you want to appeal for mercy and ask the judge for leniency, don't only ask for him to give something to you, show what you've done to prepare and practice your allocution so it comes across as authentic. You really want to speak with sincerity and humility. You want to try to make it as condensed as possible, perhaps 3 minutes on the short side, 5 minutes on the long side. I would really encourage you to look at the judge directly with eye contact. Don't be looking around the courtroom. Just speak directly to the judge. Don't use any legal jargon. I would encourage you to speak from the heart and not use any notes. But if you have to use notes, just make it an index card with some bullet points to help you stay on track. Don't type out a script, because the judge will see that these may not be your words. Okay? You want to avoid minimizing or rationalizing the offense in any way, and that's why I would encourage you to practice a lot. I would encourage you to share it with others. And I would encourage you to pay record it. Just use your iPhone or your phone on a voice memo and record what it sounds like and listen to it and go over it and then try and improve it. If you deliver your allocution statements 100 times before your sentencing date, you're just going to have more confidence that you get the point across on that very important date. I would not use that portion of the sentencing hearing to complain about the investigation, the prosecutors, the people who might have cooperated against you. Don't overpromise unrealistic goals about what you're going to do. Just focus on helping the judge see who you are and understand what you've learned from this experience. If you've done a lot of mitigation work, definitely reference it. But if you've already spelled it out, don't just reiterate everything that you've already submitted in your briefs and in your motions. So just the key takeaway is your allocution is a chance for you to humanize yourself in the eyes of the judge, And I would really encourage you to prepare well. How do you prepare well? Well, it's really pretty simple. I use an iPhone. I could very easily go to the voice memo right there, click on voice memo, and just do something like this, right? I'm just gonna ad lib one. So there we are. Okay, Your Honor, I just want to thank you first of all for allowing me this opportunity to speak before you. I know that I stand before you as a convicted felon now, which is still very difficult for me to say. And it's more difficult for me to feel, but I know I am here because of my own decisions. And I hope that you will accept this statement and while excusing my lack of eloquence. I'm somewhat nervous today. I know that my liberty is on the line, and I know that I have disappointed so many people by engaging in behavior that led to this criminal act that victimized every citizen of the United States. As a citizen, we all have a duty and a responsibility to abide by the law, to understand the law. And certainly in this instance, I failed. And people got hurt. Systems got hurt. And it's my job to try and make amends and reconcile with society and atone for what I have done. Now, I've taken a lot of time writing my personal story, and I hope that this court has had an opportunity to review who I am and get to know me more as an individual. But I'm not going to restate everything that I wrote in those documents. I just want you to know that I have worked hard to try and make things right. From the time that I learned that I was a target of a criminal investigation, I agreed to accept responsibility, to cooperate in every way possible. But I always knew I had to do more. And that's one of the reasons that I've spent so much time volunteering with a nonprofit and working to make things right, not only for me, but to try and improve outcomes of the system. I've documented more than 200 hours of voluntary work. And I don't know if community service is a component of my sentence, but if it is, I hope that this court will allow me to continue volunteering, because I found it somewhat therapeutic in working to atone and make amends for the bad decisions that brought me here. I just want the court to know that I fully appreciate the severity of my offense and the harm that I have caused to victims. I would also like the court to know that I've done everything within my power, I hope, to reconcile and atone, including making payments toward the monetary fine and for the losses that I have caused, and also just volunteering to people I may never meet with hopes of helping people that I may never meet. I know that I have to respect the judge's order, and I accept the wisdom of this honorable court. And I just hope that if the court can find me a worthy candidate for leniency or mercy, that it will do so. And I will do my best to continue working to atone and reconcile with society for my bad decisions. And boom. Boom. So now I stopped that. Okay. So I just did that ad-libbing. It was only 3 minutes and 25 seconds. So now I'd probably listen to it. I'd type it out. Then I'd try and do it better. That's what work is. And that's what I would encourage you to do. You don't need to hire a prison consultant. Okay. You don't need to waste money on frivolities or just nonsense, right? Anybody who comes out of a prison, they might fancy themselves an expert because they served, a year or 2 years in a camp. You are the expert of your life, and you can sow the seeds today to get the best possible outcome. You can practice all you want with all the free information we make available at prisonprofessors.org. But if you do find that you need a guide, I only recommend Justin Paperny, who's the founder of whitecollaradvice.com. And he offers a free interactive webinar for members of our community at whitecollaradvice.com/nonprofit. I am not available for any kind of private consultations because my real focus is on changing the system and building more pathways for people to earn freedom through merit. I know you can do it. That's why I make 3 promises. I'll never lie to you. I'll never ask you to do anything I didn't do. and I'll never ask you to pay a penny for anything that's available on prisonprofessors.org. I'm Michael Santos. I believe in you.